Hi, welcome. This is Pamela Conley-Ulick, and this week we are going to look at the Me Too movement, diversity and inclusion in the entertainment industry, and safety on the set, and what's been happening with respect to that vis-a-vis the SAG-AFTRA nudity writers. So according to a UCLA diversity and inclusion report that just came out in 2022, the good news is with respect to leads in the cast, it looks like women and people of color are being represented with about 47% of those roles going to women and or people of color. However, with respect to the director seats and the writers, it's not as good news, according to this UCLA report. With respect to directors, 3 out of 10 people are of color for directors, and 2 out of 10 are women for the directors. And with respect to writers, 3 out of 10 are the writers are people of color, and 33% are women. So that is, it looks like Hollywood has changed. However, it's still not up to what the proportion is in the overall US population. I think the census right now is about 47 it says here, whites 57% and minorities are 43%. So that's where we are in the overall proportion. And let's look now at the Me Too movement. And in my eyes, women, as you know, in the United States were originally treated as chattel, which is property. And in the entertainment industry, we'll see how that weaves in and out with women and how they found their voice, starting with Mary Pickford. And Mary Pickford was one of the first big screen actors who was very popular and was doing really well. And she got upset. She found out that her movies were making a lot of money, and the studio was packaging her films with other films for the distributors so they could make even more money. So in order to get her film, the distributors would have to pay not just for her, but for these other films that were tied to them. So the studios could rake in more because of her powerhouse films. And she got upset. So she combined with D.W. Griffith, Douglas Fairbanks, and Charlie Chaplin. In 1919, she pivoted and said, enough is enough. And they worked together to form United Artists for independent producers so they could distribute their films and reap the benefits of all their hard work. It's funny because after 1919, right after that, in August of 1920, the 19th Amendment was passed. And Mary Pickford was also an activist for that. And she stood up for the suffragist movement. There's pictures of her in a magazine trying to also be a part of that cause. So you have 1919 United Artists, 1920, women got the right to vote, thanks to the suffragist movement. Thank you very much. And then we have another amazing person who in 1953, when she was about 27 years old, this actress wrote an article entitled Wolves I Have Known. And this actress was Marilyn Monroe. And a lot of people don't associate Marilyn Monroe with the Me Too movement. However, I really think that needs to change. What she did in 1953 was she stood up and she wrote about her experience in the casting couch. And I'm going to quote what she wrote way back when in the early 50s. There are many types of wolves. Some are sinister, others are just good time Charlies trying to get something for nothing, and others make a game of it. And so she went on to talk about that and her experience. She didn't name names, but she did talk about the casting couch and how her circumstances were really not good. And thereafter, in 1954, a year after, what she did was she found out when she was working on Girl in Pink Tights, Marilyn Monroe found out her co-star, who was a male, was making 3 times what she was making on that film. And she said, enough is enough. She walked out. She was suspended by the studio, and eventually they settled it, but she walked out. And then she started her own production company. So in my eyes, I believe Marilyn Monroe also started the Me Too movement with her article, The Wolves I Have Known. In 2014, that brings us up to what Professor Stacey Smith did, and she wrote an article in the Hollywood Reporter, and she had some suggestions, 3, for how to increase diversity and inclusion. Number 1 was just add 5 roles for women speaking. Number 2 was adopt like an NFL Rooney Rule, which would ensure that the studios would at least interview women and minorities for the roles and for the directors and the writers. And number 3 was the equity inclusion contract. So she came up with that in 2014, and then we fast forward to 2017. We all know what happened in 2017. You may recall the New York Times came out with the article and the allegations against Harvey Weinstein, and a lot of Hollywood was shaken up. You'll see people started to talk about the Me Too and the Me Too movement after Rose McGowan and Ashley Judd came out with what happened to them vis-a-vis Harvey Weinstein. Others started to talk about this happened to me too. So that movement then really, it was interesting that year. Time magazine made the person of the year the Me Too movement. So how have we evolved since the 2017 Me Too movement? You'll see in 2018, Frances McDermott, who is an amazing actress, stood up at the Oscars and left everyone with 2 words: inclusion writer. And it was like the slap, but it was inclusion writer, which shook up the world. What is an inclusion writer? No, a lot of people hadn't heard of it. And so Frances McDermott, to her credit, really started the awareness of the inclusion writer. And you'll see now in Hollywood how that's evolved, with A-list actors are now often requesting this inclusion writer be included to ensure that minorities and people and women are better represented when they work on the project. In addition, you'll see after this whole 2017 happened, the SAG-AFTRA woke up and really negotiated great provisions and protections in the collective bargaining agreement with the producers vis-a-vis the nudity writer. And what did they do in the new nudity writer? They expressly prohibited producers from interviewing actors and leads in hotel rooms and private residences unless absolutely necessary. But it also made the auditions closed, so people couldn't be walking around the audition taking pictures if they had to be in a scene or interviewing, and a closed set when they are interviewing. When they are filming now nudity scenes, actors are entitled to have intimacy coordinators. They need to know exactly what's going to happen. They're not required to perform any sex acts, and they are protected with these new intimacy coordinators. So that was, in addition, there's other things SAG-AFTRA negotiated, like 48 hours. If the producer changes the script, they have to give the actors at least 48 hours to digest and to understand what they will or will not agree to. They have to actually X out the parts that will be exposed for the actor to understand and to have to agree in writing to do those types of nudity scenes now. So that's some of where we are today. And I really feel like as a whole, there is a definite awakening. and a reconciliation. And I'm very, very hopeful that the next generation has learned from the people like Marilyn Monroe to Rose McGowan and Ashley Judd and so many others who have stood up to say enough is enough. I really believe that Hollywood and the entertainment industry is definitely changing and for the better. And